When the sun leaves the Antarctic coast and does not return for months, almost everything alive moves away from it, or shuts down, or waits. One animal does the opposite. It walks inland, onto the sea ice in the dark to breed. The emperor penguin, Aptenodytes forsteri, is the largest penguin alive, and the only bird that raises its young through the Antarctic winter. It stands a little over a meter tall and arrives at the colony carrying up to 40 kilograms, about 90 pounds, much of it fat laid down for what is coming. The species was separated from the king penguin and named in 1844 by George Robert Gray at the British Museum, in honor of Johann Reinhold Forster, the naturalist on James Cook's second voyage, who had seen these birds 70 years earlier and written them down, reasonably enough, as king penguins. It lives around the whole rim of the continent, on the band of frozen sea that widens through the cold months and forces the colonies further and further from open water. Everything about the bird is an answer to one question: how to hold heat against a place that takes it faster than anywhere else an animal chooses to breed. Air temperatures on the winter ice fall toward minus 50 degrees Celsius, about minus 58 Fahrenheit, before the wind is counted, and the wind can pass 200 kilometers per hour. The answer begins in the body. The dark feathers of the back take in what little warmth the sun offers. Beneath them, a dense layer of short feathers traps a film of still air against the skin, and beneath that lies the fat. The bird is built as a sequence of insulating shells. Even its posture is part of the design. It rocks back onto its heels and tail so that as little of its foot as possible touches the ice. But no single bird carries enough insulation to stand alone through the polar winter. So the colony becomes one body. The males gather into a huddle, thousands of them pressed together at up to 10 birds in a square meter, and the air between them warms. Measurements inside a huddle have reached 24 degrees Celsius, while the storm outside sat far below zero. The huddle is never quite still. Every 30 to 60 seconds, the birds take small coordinated steps, 5 to 10 centimeters at a time, and the movement travels through the mass like a slow wave. The wave keeps the packing tight, carries the whole huddle gradually across the ice, and turns it over on itself, so that birds on the cold outer edge work their way inward and no individual stays in the wind for long. And it is the male who waits. The female lays a single egg, passes it carefully across to her mate, and returns to the sea to feed, a journey that keeps her away for around 2 months. The male takes the egg onto the tops of his feet and covers it with a fold of bare skin, a brood pouch, and there he holds it through the dark for around 9 weeks, eating nothing, standing in the huddle, living on the fat he carried in. When the female returns, she takes over the newly hatched chick, and the male, by now far lighter than when he arrived, turns and walks back toward the open sea to feed at last. From then on, the parents trade places, crossing the ice in each direction to carry food back to a single growing chick. Depending on where the ice edge stands, the journey can run to more than 100 kilometers, about 60 miles. At around 6 weeks, the chick leaves its parents' feet and joins a creche, a loose nursery of young birds, still fed by the adults that find it. The nursery holds together for a few months and then disperses as the sea ice begins to break up. The sea is where the other half of the bird's design shows. An emperor penguin forages mostly between 150 and 250 meters down, and the deepest dive on record, from Oster Colony in 1994, reached 564 meters, about 1,850 feet, with dives recorded at more than 20 minutes. No other bird goes so deep. Which is the reason for all of it, the reason a bird breeds in the worst season on Earth. The timing is not endurance for its own sake. By beginning in winter, the emperor penguin times the most demanding stretch of chick rearing to the Antarctic spring, when the ice retreats, the water opens, and the sea fills with food. The calendar is set backward from a meal. Satellites now keep the census, finding colonies by the red-brown stain of guano on white ice, 61 of them around the continent, a little over 500,000 birds. In April 2026, the species was listed as endangered, on projections that the fast ice it breeds on will keep failing earlier in the season. Stand at a distance, and the colony reads less like a gathering of individual animals than like a single dark organism on the ice, holding its own warmth, turning slowly against the wind, waiting out the night.